Local independent reporter Allie Bradley on the situation at the border. When we talked to Allie Bradley on Monday when I was filling in on the show, there was a fairly viral photo of a border patrolman on a horse. There is now more info as, of course, behind the photo is a video. Allie Bradley, thanks so much for joining KIRO Nights. What can you fill us in on?
Hey, Saul, glad to be here tonight, and thanks for having me. Obviously, that is kind of the picture heard around the world, right? Those images are obviously circulating, and since then, even the president has condemned the Border Patrol units for that. Now, I have to make this very clear. He condemned the Border Patrol agents for, A, the job that he hired them to do, they're federal agents, but B, he said that comment today, even after the photographer came out and admitted he never saw those split reins ever make contact with any one of those migrants. Now, an AP reporter that was also in the water during that whole thing, she scrubbed through her footage and she found that very moment that happened, where those photos were taken, where those images really made viral, issues for a lot of people and brought up a lot of things that further divided our nation. So she pumped that video out today, and I've shared it all over my platforms as well. And you can clearly see that Border Patrol agent grab that migrant by the shirt, and you see that migrant escape from his grasp and run away. And there, it is just one of those things where right now as journalists, we have such an important responsibility to make sure that we get it right. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of the media got it wrong. And the Biden administration has this one wrong as well. They're still pushing that, doubling down on that. And with no bias here at all, just a journalist wanting the truth out there. These Border Patrol agents now have hits out on their lives because of these negligent photos that were put out. And for me, that is something that, we need to be doing a better job. And in my opinion, that photographer needs to be even more public. He spoke with a local, with a San Antonio news station down there. And he said, I never saw anybody get whipped. And so, the president today coming out talking about being strapped. And that was those were really hard words, I think, for America to hear. And again, I just think it was really negligent and reckless for the administration to double down like they did, and knowing that A, that video was out there, and B, that the photographer had said that it didn't happen.
Well, and it requires independent journalists like yourself, the AP journalist who came out, and it actually reminds me of a blast from the past. If our listeners remember, Nick Sandmann, the young man who was wearing a Make America Great Again hat, was vilified by all of America, and then it turns out there was video that made the conversation a little more complex. And by the way, if you want to text in 98973, if you want to follow Allie Bradley, she's one of the best independent journalists in the country covering the border, so definitely get on Instagram and do that. But I want to jump in here, Allie, and ask you, little rational opposition, right? I watched the video, I watched the photos. It was obviously wrong to say that individual was whipped, but I do think there is some room in a rational world to say maybe we shouldn't be using mounted horsemen on the border, and that's just a bad image for the United States. What do you kind of take on that perspective versus the more, it was really a lie to say that person was whipped?
Well, I don't want to put myself in a position where I have to really make an opinion about it, but I will say this. The Border Patrol mounted units that is something that they are well trained on. That is something that they utilize all along the southern border. And it's because of the terrain that is down there. You can't bring ATVs in there. You can't bring those vehicles in there. And they use those split reins so that when they go through brush and things like that, it doesn't completely annihilate and rip the horse's mouth open with that bit. So there's a lot of reasons why they do that. And a lot of people were suggesting ATVs instead. But would that be a better image? Border Patrol agents chasing down migrants on ATVs? I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that those men and women that are on those horses know what they're doing. They are highly skilled and trained. And if you watch those videos again, they are using those horses to their best ability, and they do not ever make contact with people. And they're swinging those reins because that A, creates distance between the people and the horse. And it also helps steer the horses. So I think I would really encourage people to do a little bit more research on what they were doing. And yeah, the images aren't ones that, it's hard because they're horses, right? And they're cowboys. And I think that was really negligent as well for Maxine Waters to come out and just chastise the cowboys, because those are Texans. Those guys, a lot of those guys aren't from there. They were brought in because it was all hands on deck. Those men and women have been busting their humps out there. And I'll tell you this, Saul, They go home to their families. If they're local, they don't get tested. There are communicable diseases out there along with COVID. We know that there were confirmed cases of AIDS, tuberculosis, hepatitis, chickenpox, and the measles, okay? And then we just expect those guys to do that job and go home, and then we turn around and this is now what they're dealing with. So I don't know what the better option would be. I saw an image where gentlemen were just standing along the river. You know, what are they going to do? Put them in a headlock? Would that be better? I would just like to know what America thinks would be a better image. Would it be beanbags? Would it be shooting these people with beanbags? Would it be, what would it be? Because I don't know if there's a better option than a horse. I think it's just the optics that go along with a cowboy and a migrant that makes America uncomfortable. And I think that, unfortunately, that is something that is, a feeling that they're having. But I don't know. Again, I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think any image would have satisfied America.
Well, and this goes back to some of the controversy and really brouhaha around Donald Trump's comments about a wall. When I was a conservative talk radio show host, not here on KIRO Nights, but on KTTH, I mentioned a lot that maybe the answer was building a strong wall with a large door. And then you create kind of a organized refugee encampment in front of all of these areas, allow better processing and really try to lean in to create a safe environment, because that's something that you can speak to. And by the way, Allie, you got some huge fans on the radio show, 98973. Somebody texted in. I'm so happy I've caught both of your interviews with Allie. Tell her she's awesome for me, and I will tell you you're awesome. But what are you experiencing when you go down the border? What's your kind of personal perspective as an independent journalist?
Well, a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, so the wall worked. Okay, the wall isn't done. It's very broken up. There are a lot of pieces of it that are in shambles. And I will tell you, every law enforcement officer that I talked to said the wall would be a tool that would help them, because it would direct people in the right place instead of just having these big holes where they're going, with kind of free-for-all into the cities and things like that. And that's what a port of entry is for, right? So, they are saying that is a tool so that they know who is coming in, and so that cartel and smugglers aren't able to get into the communities as well, because those people are also coming in and capitalizing on a porous border. And also, I want to also talk about how the governor and, all of the state of Texas brought in so many resources, and it was great. It was a great show of force, right? But you have to keep in mind, when all hands are on deck, that meant all of the checkpoints, except for one, were closed. 192 miles of border were pretty much unmanned. So it'll be interesting to see the statistics of what came in, what we know, what we don't know, because a lot of what we see are people that are self-surrendering. Those are the ones that are coming in and saying, I want to be processed. I want to take my next steps to hopefully become an American citizen or live in America. And, one of those things, when you're sitting there and you have a lot of those people coming in and you don't know who, those are the ones we know about. There are a lot that we don't know about. And those are the ones you have to worry about. When I was down there last month, there was an 18th Street gang member that was apprehended. We know MS-13 gang members have also been there. So when you have all of your resources in one place because of a surge like this, it makes it incredibly difficult for the rest of the state. And it makes it a tense situation for those little local border communities as well that are already struggling. But when I was down there, I know when I talked to you on Monday, I don't think that I had these statistics yet, but there were 11 babies born down in Del Rio over this stretch of time. And, 10 of them were born at the hospital. There's one local hospital, and they were already stretched thin as well. And they did a great job. I circled around with one of the ENTs, and she said her team did wonderful, and everybody just showed up, and they just have a great group of people there, and they're wonderful. So, but one baby was born on the ground. And we talk about those Border Patrol agents, and going back to that, these are jobs that they signed up to do that, but I don't think that they signed up to help deliver babies in the dirt. So, we've got to look at all the facets and all of the different things that are going on here. And, these people are in search of a better life. They were given the green light, more or less, to come in. Our president campaigned on an open border policy. So these people were waiting for that green light to come in, and it was there, and they knew that they could go to Acuna because it was an easy way to cross that weir dam that they were crossing. And so, seeing all of that and the impacts on the local community, it was a big eye-opener, Saul. And I talked to the superintendent. He told me how much money they lose because when that bridge is closed, they have 300 kids that go to school in the public schools here because they go through the legal process. It is legal for them. But based on the math that he gave me, they've lost $42,000 for the public school system just with that bridge closed. Over in Mexico, they lose $500,000 a day with that bridge closed. So there are so many implications to this crisis that we're not really looking at, right? We're looking at the horse.
Allie,
and that is unfortunate.
We got about 60 seconds left here, and there's one question from a listener from your Monday interview that I'd love to get you to jump on, and then maybe you can share with everybody how they can keep track of the great work you're doing and your Instagram and your website. But real quick, you mentioned before that they shut down media access on the border. Who shut down media access on the border?
I believe it was the Border Patrol, which would have been federal. So I had access because I was embedded with the sheriff, and so did one of the other reporters because he was embedded with Texas DPS, which is the Department of Public Safety. Now, other media weren't really allowed to go down under that bridge until today, and that was a federal directive. And I actually got shut out on Tuesday, when I was coming home, or I got shut out on Monday. They didn't want people to be down there, but then, we saw that Bill Malugin was down there the next day, and the sheriff said the rules are changing every day. So it is something that, is fluid, but it was a federal move. I was at a checkpoint, and they said, we're not letting you any further. I said, well, I'm with the sheriff. They said, we don't care. We're turning you around. So I didn't have access on that final day, which is why I left.
Well, with that, we have access, luckily, to Allie Bradley TV. It's her Instagram, it's her website. Allie, can you tell everybody your company as well? And then we got to let you go because I'm using too much time with your great interview.
Oh, no. Well, hopefully we'll come back again soon. My company I started is called IOTA Media. It's interactive, objective, transparent assignments, my friend, and we should all have access to what's going on, all of the truth. And if it makes you uncomfortable, then I'm doing my job right.
Well, there you go. We're trying to do our job right and make you comfortable with all this great news on KIRO Nights. Thanks to Allie Bradley, Allie Bradley TV. You can follow her on Instagram. You can find her on the internet. With that, it's KIRO Nights. I'm Saul Spady. Stick